I find it amazing that the United States, the richest country in the world, has all this money, but can't provide their citizens with something as basic and important as health care. Before we get into this video, if you are new here and you're a liberal or a leftist or enjoy leftist liberal content, consider subscribing to my channel. I drop videos weekly. But today's video is very personal to me. I'm immensely passionate about our next topic, as I have lived in countries that offer said topic. Today, we're talking about universal healthcare, another word that's like kryptonite to conservatives and Republicans alike. See, conservatives believe that your health is your problem, and they always love to say,
"I'm not paying for your medical bills. That's not my problem. That's your problem."
And the really funny thing about that statement is that that's coming from the exact same person that has family members on Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, SSI, WIC, and the demonized word in the conservative world, welfare. Oh, don't ask a conservative or a Republican how they feel about welfare. By the end of that conversation, you'd think you're having an aneurysm. Trust me, it almost happened to me. A couple of days ago, I had a major Crohn's flare-up, and if you don't know what Crohn's disease is, I'm gonna just give it to you in a nutshell. The cells in my small intestine, in my ileum, are fighting themselves. It's an autoimmune disease, which, when the white blood cells are fighting themselves, it is inflaming 17 feet of my intestines. At least 9 feet of that is infected with Crohn's disease. It's a really disease. Literally. A couple of days ago, I went to the emergency room for Crohn's disease, and if you follow me on TikTok, you would know I did keep my followers updated there. At the moment, I'm transitioning careers, so I don't have health insurance, so I can't wait for that medical bill to come in. And that's a massive problem in the United States. That's a problem that we need to fix immediately. Like, you don't have anything besides your health. If you don't have your health, you have nothing. But today, ladies and gentlemen, I want to dig a little deeper into the question, why doesn't the United States of America have universal health care? I mean, Cuba has universal health care. And y'all know how much them conservatives love talking about Cuba, that communist country. Yeah, go ahead and talk about a country that actually gives a fuck about its citizens. Bro, Trinidad and Tobago has universal health care. And really, no offense to anyone in TNT, but I'm just trying to make a point here. All of Europe has it, Asia, India, 11 countries in Africa offer universal health care to their citizens. 195 sovereign nations in this world, 188 offer universal health care. And the United States is not one of them. And I wonder why. But asking that question, why doesn't the United States have universal health care, is a very mysterious question. But indeed, it is a simple one to answer. Honestly, if you don't believe in universal health care, just think about it. Do you honestly believe that the United States doesn't have the capacity to offer their citizens universal health care? If you don't believe that, oh, you're crazy, because they absolutely can. The United States just doesn't want to, and it probably never will. See, a comedic genius once said, and I'm paraphrasing here, the owners of this country don't want that. And we're talking about the real owners here, the millionaires and billionaires that control all the strings that are pulled and make all the important decisions. They have a club, and you ain't in it. That was said by the one and only comedic genius, George Carlin. And God, was that man correct? Especially with how much this corrupt system that the United States likes to call healthcare has been exposed due to COVID-19. But that's exactly what's happening here, what George Carlin said. And believe it or not, that's just the top layer of this unbelievably disgusting and frankly repulsive way of treating the citizens of the country that prides itself in liberty and justice for all. But then when you actually peel back those layers even further and dig and dig, you'll get into areas that you don't want to be. Like, for example, the dark web. Things you cannot unsee or unthink ever again. I actually dug a little deeper into why the United States actually doesn't have universal healthcare. Like, the spark of this whole storm. At first, I thought, you know, pharmaceutical companies and insurance agencies, they own everything. They control the whole healthcare system here in the United States, which is absolutely true. Don't get me wrong, they still do. They absolutely 100,000% do. And they only do this because of a spark that started 200 years ago. What if the United States doesn't have universal healthcare because of race? Seriously, let's look back at the 1800s. Doctors knew even then that showering will probably prevent diseases from spreading. Which of course, they were right. And even though they didn't know much about viruses as they weren't discovered yet, they knew that poor nutrition made people more susceptible to illnesses. But the incredible thing is that doctors knew even then that vaccinations could stop an outbreak in its tracks. And that's actually how they prevented smallpox from unaliving the Union Army. The saddest part is that once slavery was abolished, newly freed African Americans faced a much higher mortality rate than white people. And I wonder why. Let me take a wild guess. Because this country is perhaps racist? African Americans down in the South literally pled for help from the government that just freed them. I mean, these motherfuckers couldn't even keep their first promise of 40 acres and a mule. You think they were gonna provide healthcare to slaves, to people that they don't even think are people? No, absolutely not. See, ladies and gentlemen, white people are afraid. They are petrified that the black race is going to be the dominant race in the United States and will make laws against white people, possibly even enslaving white people. No joke, I've gotten that deep with a Republican. These people are disgusting. But they also didn't want some black disease spilling into their own little white communities and wanted the formerly enslaved to be healthy enough to return to plantation work, as they say. But they also feared that free and healthy African Americans would upend the racial hierarchy, which is based on the 2012 book from historian Jim Downs, Sick from Freedom. I actually took the time to listen to this incredible book for this video, and this isn't no sponsorship. I just love spreading incredible writing and true American history. But there is one thing that the United States did for the newly freed, and that is offer them a federal healthcare program. And I'm using these very, very hard. Federal healthcare program. It was called the Friedmans Bureau, and it was supposed to address the health crisis in the war-torn South. So get this, they send 120 doctors to the South. When the doctors got there, they were horrified. The doctors pled to DC to send them money, send them equipment, because this is out of control. They put up 40 hospitals, but eventually all of them shut down. Rich white owners of this country argue that free assistance of any kind would breed dependence, and that when it came to black infirmity, hard labor was a better solve than white medicine. And here's the crazy part. This blew my mind. People back then actually thought once these slaves, these newly people that are freed now, once they become free, they're gonna go extinct. That's how sick and untreated African Americans were post-Civil War. I want to read you a quote from 1855 from an unnamed congressman from Ohio. "No charitable black scheme can wash out the color of the Negro, change his inferior nature, or save him from his inevitable fate." Basically saying, oh, sorry you're black, but you don't deserve anything because of the skin color that you were born with. I can't believe this motherfucker was voted in. But you know what? I can. It's 1855. Whoops. People were mentally ill back then. Now, I want to look into a person that I was completely unaware of until this video, and I studied American history, and that's depressing that I spend almost 60 grand on my education, and I never heard of this woman. And that amazing woman is Rebecca Lee Crumpler, the first African-American doctor that's a woman. She was born and studied medicine in Boston. She was actually one of the doctors that signed up to be part of the Friedmans Bureau. And that's when it clicked in my head on why they rejected them. I wonder. A black woman asking for assistance from the US government. Okay. Rebecca would actually go and change the face of medicine here in the United States. She should be propped up in downtown and glorified. Not racist Nathan Bedford Forrest. After Reconstruction and further into the 1920s and even 30s, the voting bloc was filled with Democrats in both chambers of Congress. So they made laws preventing black Americans from getting anything. They knew that most laborers' work, such as farm work, industrial work, etc., were all done by black Americans. So when the New Deal passed, they were excluded from the New Deal policies, which included Social Security. I mean, it all makes sense if you actually think about it. Not only do pharmaceutical companies control this but rich white men control this. And they love the fact that they monopolized healthcare in this country. So not only do black people not get this, or any people of color, but you, Susie, and Bobby, and Todd, and Cletus, and Hunter, you don't get it either. I hope you conservatives get that to your thick skulls.
You don't have it either.
And as always, you vote against your own interest and you don't even know you're doing it. See, universal healthcare is just the blimp on a radar for any politician that's not Bernie Sanders or AOC. I believe that universal healthcare is not only needed, but it's the only way to make sure that every American citizen has that blanket of comfort, that bread of what's most important to all human beings, your health. What do you think of this? Please comment your thoughts below, because once I found this shit out, I lost my mind. I couldn't believe it. Please don't forget to hit that like button, because it truly tremendously helps out the channel. And if you want weekly videos just like this, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. And I will see you guys later.